October 1968, Las Vegas, the Sands Hotel. The ballroom was intimate by Vegas standards. Crystal chandeliers, dark wood paneling, carpet thick enough to muffle footsteps. The kind of room designed for conversations that mattered. Frank Sinatra was hosting a private industry event. Maybe 150 people, all insiders. Record executives, radio programmers, a few journalists, some musicians whose names everyone knew. The kind of gathering where deals got made over cocktails and careers could shift based on a handshake. It was late, past midnight. The main casinos still roared with tourists, but this ballroom existed in a different world. Quieter, more exclusive. Sinatra was 52 years old and untouchable, chairman of the board. The voice. He defined American popular music for 2 decades. His control over phrasing, his understanding of a lyric, his ability to make a song feel like a conversation. These weren't just skills. They were the standard. He stood near the bar holding court. Navy suit, perfect. Drink in hand. Ring catching the light. When Sinatra talked, people leaned in. Not because he was loud, but because missing a word felt like missing something important. The conversation had turned to the state of modern music. Someone mentioned the British invasion. Someone else brought up Woodstock, which was being planned for the following summer. Sinatra's expression didn't change, but his tone cooled. Rock and roll, he said, not to anyone in particular, is the most brutal, ugly, desperate, vicious form of expression it has been my misfortune to hear. A few people laughed, some nodded. This wasn't new. Sinatra had been dismissive of rock music for years. He saw it as noise, as regression, as kids with guitars pretending to be musicians. These kids, he continued, they turn up the amplifiers to hide the fact they can't sing. They use distortion because they don't understand melody. Real singers don't need tricks. Across the room, Jimi Hendrix was sitting on a leather sofa, mostly ignored. He'd been invited by his manager who was trying to get him into different circles, trying to prove Jimi wasn't just a rock act, that he could move in any musical space. Jimi was 25, at the peak of his fame. Electric Ladyland had just been released. He was selling out arenas. But in this room with these people, he was just another young musician. Interesting, maybe. Relevant to them, not really. Someone noticed Jimi and thought it would be entertaining to bridge the gap. Frank, the man said, a producer whose name carried weight. Jimi Hendrix is here. You know his work? Sinatra looked across the room, took a sip of his drink. I've heard it, Sinatra said. Loud guitars, feedback, not my thing. The room got quieter. Not silent, but people sensed something happening. Jimi didn't respond immediately. He was used to older musicians dismissing him. It came with the territory. Rock was young music, rebellious music. The establishment was supposed to hate it, but there was something about Sinatra's tone. Not angry, not threatened, just dismissive. Like Jimi's music didn't even register as music. The producer, enjoying himself, pressed further. Why don't you show Mr. Sinatra what you can do? He said to Jimi. There's a piano over there, a guitar. Show him it's not just noise. Jimi looked at the producer, then at Sinatra. The older man's expression was neutral, almost bored. I don't want to impose, Jimi said quietly. You're not imposing, Sinatra said. But if you want to prove something, be my guest. It wasn't an invitation. It was a challenge. Polite on the surface, cutting underneath. Jimi stood up, walked across the room. There was an upright piano against the wall and an acoustic guitar on a stand. A Gibson, probably worth more than most people's cars. He picked up the guitar, sat down on a stool someone pulled over. The room was watching now. Conversations had stopped. Jimi spent maybe 30 seconds tuning. His fingers moved quickly, precisely. No eye contact with anyone, just him and the guitar. Then he looked at Sinatra. You like standards? Jimi asked. I've sung a few, Sinatra said, the faintest hint of a smile. Fly Me to the Moon? Jimi asked. Sinatra's expression shifted slightly. That was his song, one of his signatures. Bart Howard had written it, but Sinatra had made it iconic. The definitive version, the arrangement everyone knew. You know it? Sinatra asked. Heard it a few times, Jimi said. Then he started playing. No amplifier, no effects. Just 6 strings and wood. The intro was gentle, finger-picking, not strumming, each note clear and separate. The melody emerged slowly, like something being uncovered rather than performed. Then Jimi started singing. His voice was soft, not the bluesy rasp from his records, but something quieter, more vulnerable. He sang the lyrics straight, no improvisation, no rewriting. Bart Howard's words exactly as written. Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Sinatra's expression didn't change, but his posture did. He straightened slightly, set his drink down. Jimmy's phrasing was unusual. He breathed in unexpected places, let certain words hang. The way he sang, in other words, had a hesitation in it, a questioning quality that made the familiar lyric feel uncertain, fragile. His guitar playing supported the vocal without overwhelming it. Bass notes with his thumb, melody with his fingers, creating a complete arrangement with just one instrument. The chord voicings were sophisticated, jazzy, nothing like the power chords from his rock songs. The room had gone completely silent. This wasn't what anyone expected. People set down their drinks. Conversation stopped. The waiters froze in place. Sinatra watched Jimmy's hands, listened to his voice. The kid wasn't trying to out-sing him, wasn't trying to be flashy. He was interpreting the song honestly, bringing something personal to it. When Jimi reached the bridge, his voice opened up slightly. Not loud, but fuller. The guitar became more complex, adding little runs between phrases, harmonic touches that elevated the arrangement without cluttering it. In other words, please be true. The final verse was quieter than the first. Jimmy's voice dropped almost to a whisper. The guitar followed, becoming so minimal it was almost just rhythm, just breath. In other words, I love you. He let the last chord ring, didn't cut it off, let it fade naturally into silence. Nobody moved. The silence stretched. 3 seconds, 5, 10. Jimi set the guitar down gently, stood up, walked back toward the sofa without looking at Sinatra, without looking at anyone. Then the applause started. Not wild, not the screaming from rock concerts, but genuine, respectful, the kind of applause musicians give other musicians. Sinatra didn't clap. He stood still, looking at the empty stool. His expression was complicated, not anger, not embarrassment. Something closer to recognition. Someone started talking to Sinatra, but he held up a hand, walked across the room to where Jimi was sitting down. Where did you learn to sing like that? Sinatra asked. Same place everyone does, Jimi said. Listening, trying, failing, trying again. That wasn't rock and roll, Sinatra said. No, sir, Jimi agreed, but you play rock and roll. Sometimes. Sinatra studied him for a moment. You understand phrasing, he said. Most singers your age, they just belt. They think volume equals emotion. You understand space, where to breathe, when to hold back. I learned from your records, Jimi said simply. The way you shape a lyric, the way you use silence. Sinatra looked surprised. My records? Yes, sir. In the Air Force, I had a bunkmate who loved your stuff, played it constantly. I'd listen while I practiced guitar, started noticing how you'd pause, how you'd lean into certain words. Realized the guitar could do the same thing. Sinatra sat down in the chair across from Jimi. So the distortion, the feedback, the volume, that's part of what I do, Jimi said. But it's not all of what I do. Rock is one language, jazz is another. Blues, soul, they're all just ways of saying something true. The room had gone back to its conversations, but a few people were still watching this exchange, waiting. I owe you an apology, Sinatra said quietly. I dismissed you, dismissed what you do. I heard the noise and assumed that's all there was. Most people do, Jimi said. It's okay. It's not okay, Sinatra said. I've spent my whole career fighting people who judge music without really listening to it. Then I did the same thing to you. They sat in silence for a moment. The voice, Sinatra said. You could do more with it. If you wanted, you have something there. Maybe, Jimi said, but the guitar is where I'm most honest. Sinatra nodded slowly. Fair enough, but don't hide that voice. What you just did, that was real singing. That was craftsmanship. Learned from the best, Jimi said quietly. The conversation moved on after that. Other people came over. The moment passed, but something had shifted. 3 years later, in 1971, Sinatra was doing a television interview. The host asked him about changing musical tastes, about rock music, about whether he still thought it was noise. Sinatra paused before answering. "I was wrong about a lot of it," he said. "There's some very talented musicians in rock. I learned that the hard way." "Any specific moment that changed your mind?" the host asked. Sinatra smiled, a little sad. "There was a young man, a guitarist," he said. "Jimi Hendrix. He'd passed away by then. I'd dismissed his music, called it noise. Then one night he played one of my songs on an acoustic guitar and sang it. No amplifiers, no effects, just him and the guitar. And he showed me that a real musician can work in any style, any genre, that the tools don't matter. The truth matters." "Did you tell him that?" "I tried to," Sinatra said. "But I don't think I said it well enough. I should have said it better. I should have recognized what he was earlier. But I was stuck in my own ideas about what music should be." The interviewer waited, sensing there was more. "You know what haunts me?" Sinatra continued, his voice softer. "That kid died thinking most of my generation dismissed him, that we never really understood what he was trying to do. I got one night with him where I could see past my own prejudices. One night. And then he was gone. He taught me something important that night," Sinatra continued after a pause. "He taught me that music isn't about the volume or the instrumentation. It's about honesty, about communicating something real. He did that with a Stratocaster and a Marshall stack. I did it with an orchestra. Same goal, different languages." The story didn't become as famous as some of the other Jimi encounters. There were no recordings of that Las Vegas performance, no photographs, just the memory of the people who were there. But those who witnessed it talked about it for years. The night Frank Sinatra challenged Jimi Hendrix to prove he was more than noise. And Jimi responded by singing Sinatra's own song back to him with such grace, such understanding, that the chairman of the board had to reconsider everything he thought he knew about the younger generation of musicians. Sinatra had expected to hear a rock musician try and fail to sing a standard. Instead, he heard a complete artist who could move between worlds, who understood that music was bigger than any single genre, who could be loud and explosive when the truth demanded it, and quiet and intimate when the truth demanded that instead. In that Las Vegas ballroom, in front of 150 industry insiders, Jimi Hendrix didn't argue with Frank Sinatra about the value of rock music. He didn't defend distortion or feedback or volume. He just sang. And in that singing, he showed one of the greatest vocalists of all time that real musicianship transcends style, that honesty doesn't need amplification, and that the kids with the loud guitars understood more about music than their elders had assumed. Frank Sinatra called rock music noise until he heard Jimi Hendrix sing "Fly Me to the Moon" with an acoustic guitar in a quiet room. What happened next was silence. Not the silence of nothing to say, the silence of respect, the silence of understanding, the silence of an older generation recognizing that the younger generation had been listening all along.